home inspection, Scott Webster in mortgage, and Mike Cochran in insurance. So this is our real estate team. Whether you are buying one home and you think that's all you're going to do, or you're actually a real estate investor and you want to buy multiple, you need a team. You get what you pay for. And in many cases, that experience comes free to you, free of charge. So use your team. It's vitally important. You get what you pay for. So a number of women wanted to have a little explanation of what's in the market right now. So if you look at the first, I have short sale, I have a foreclosure, and an REO. So just to explain the process, you're buying and selling a house. In the regular market, most people know what that is. A short sale means I am the owner and I owe more money to the mortgage company than the house is worth. That's a short sale. I would advise you, if you are really shopping around, to avoid them. It's not really a great investment because there's a lot of time negotiated with this, and in a declining market, sometimes you can really shop around and really utilize it. The second one is a foreclosure. That to me is the worst investment because you go in blind. You don't get to see the property and you bid against the lender. So you have to have a minimum bid of at least what the money is owed on the house. The third is REO, real estate owned. In my opinion, that is the best deal in town. And there are going to be a flood of these in this spring market. So if you are at all interested, make sure you start looking. You can talk to your real estate expert who Roz can look and see. She'll know just by looking on the MLS sheet which one of these are. And she can identify them and really assist you in getting an REO, a real estate owned. The reason you want to have your team established is because if you're going to be an effective bidder on an REO, you have to already have had your home inspection before you put in your offer. You need to know what you're buying and the condition and it's not usually negotiated, it's a one-time bid. You want to be able to understand what the code violations are. You want to be able to make sure your financing is in order. The best deal you can give a bank is a cash offer. You already know that you're purchasing this house for $50,000 because it's that cheap. Yes, it's actually listed on the MLS for $50,000. You want to already talk to Scott Haydock, get your home equity line of credit, already have your $75,000 in your home equity line of credit ready, so you're actually offering the bank a cash offer. You get a response very quickly that way because you are a solid buyer. So now, what are my added values if you're just buying a single family home? I look at the contract. I educate my buyers if you're purchasing, negotiating the home inspection deficiencies. I also look at taxes. Typically, I save my clients my fee at a minimum, either in reducing the taxes, in negotiating the home inspection items, reviewing the title and survey, any issues on title commitment, and I also walk you through the process and educate you so you feel comfortable that you know what this process entails, so the next time you're a more educated buyer or seller. For example, if you're purchasing a condominium, one of the things I do is I really talk to my clients who, when they get the stacks of the condominium declaration, bylaws, rules and regulations, they look at those 2 inches of paper and say, oh my God, I can't do it. Yes, you can, and not only can you, but you need to. This is a financial investment. The first document you need to look at is the budget. Why? Because you're buying into somebody else's investment. And how we as a whole are spending that money is really important to you because it's going to affect your monthly assessments. And I split up the 4 documents. The declaration says, hey, listen, this is the association's responsibility. This is your responsibility as a unit owner. The bylaws, hey, we're all going to meet together as a meeting. How do we meet? Who's in charge? How do we run the meetings? That's what the bylaws say. The budget, how much money are we coming in? What are we spending it at? And the meeting minutes, really, really important because it'll tell us, hey, listen, 6 months ago they talked already about having to tear off the roof, and that's 40 grand. They didn't vote on anything, nobody knows it, but it's already in the meeting minutes. Now I, as a potential buyer, know there's a $40,000 special assessment coming down the pipeline. So these are really important documents that you need to be familiar with as a potential buyer in a condominium. Now we'll move to investment properties. You have to say, what is your intent? Are you going to flip? Are you going to rent? What are you going to do? Once you say, okay, yeah, I'm going to flip, You have to know your market. Right now we're in a declining market, still in a declining market. So it's still okay, you can flip. You know, Chinese have a word for crisis, danger and opportunity. If you have your team together, it's an opportunity. If you don't know what you're doing, it can be very dangerous. So as long as you have your expert team together, you can still flip in a declining market. You just have to know, okay, what can I really sell this house for quickly? And if you market the house that you're actually going to be flipping lower than the current value, hey, buyers still want a value, and it still has, and you can still have a profit. So you have to really know what the market is. One of the things that I recommend, because of my experience, is I tell my clients to fill out a Freedom of Information Act. This will allow you to go to the village, fill out this Freedom of Information Act on this property. You will have all the village information, what permits were pulled, what code violations exist, what any documentation between the village and this property has, and you really get a nice history of what has happened to this property. You know, oh, they said it's totally rehab. Well, they didn't tear off the roof, they just re-roofed it. You'll know that from a permit, which is really important information to have when you're looking at an investment. I always like to have the home inspection completed before you put in your offer, because really it's like buying a car without really knowing. It's buying a used car, let's say, not a new car, a used car, without ever looking at the hood or understanding or having a mechanic look at it. You negotiate the price and then you bring it to the mechanic and find out how defective the used car really is. Knowledge is power. The more knowledge you have, the more powerful you are in making your presentation to the seller. So if you spend the $475, I'm sorry, Scott, how much is it?
It's anywhere from 300 to 600.
Anywhere from 300 to 600, and I'm sure if you're really looking, you can probably cut a deal. Hey, I'll buy 3 or 4 home inspectors. They call it quantity package. But really, what happens is you really become educated and understand what you're looking for in an investment. The last one is if you're renting. Was that 5 minutes or 5 seconds?
3 minutes.
Oh, 3 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, 3 minutes left.
Right between. Okay, if you're deciding that you're going to purchase this property and hold, and that you're going to rent it. So one of the things that we have been able to do is actually get a line on renters. And if this property doesn't work, if we think they're a good renter, we keep their name and number. And then we call them and try to find out, oh, okay, this person is a really good renter. They've got great credit. They're very solid. Let's look and see, if we have another property that matches with them. We've actually taken them to properties that we don't own, but we're thinking about putting a bid and see if they actually like the property. It's a match. Now, before we even close on the property, we have a renter that's already pre-qualified, and this is a solid renter. So our rent's coming in before our first mortgage payment is due. Another one that I really like, I don't know if I read it in a book, so it wasn't my original idea, but I've had a lot of clients who do rent, and they have to evict the tenant. It's been a sad story, a nice guy, but they haven't paid rent in 2 months. My client hasn't given them their 5-day notice. They haven't done what they were supposed to do to begin with. So I said, you know what, use this as a learning experience. You made a couple mistakes, the renter makes a couple mistakes. Bottom line, you want them out, they can't pay anymore. So I have suggested on a number of occasions, and it's very effective, to actually flash $300 in front of the guy's face and say, because chances are they're not leaving because they can't afford to move. So figure out what it is that they need. You flash the $300 and say, meet me here Saturday at noon. Your stuff's out. You hand me the keys. I hand you $300. You avoid the whole eviction process, which, as Sir Jordan and John have known, it's a 6-month process. It's very time-consuming, and you're hemorrhaging money with your rental property. So it has been very effective. Those are just a little tools, a little tricks of the trade I've used over my profession. If anybody has any questions, I would be happy to answer them. Geldes, Latz & Associates.
Thank you.